Okay, oh, what I'm gonna do is silence everybody and then invite Eric to basically run with it. Okay, we're gonna start off with, let's start off with open group one. Eric, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Round one, which is basically in and out. Okay, fungus among us, number two.
Okay. For a nature type picture, you have good exposure, good details all around, and you have a somewhat interesting subject. So you do have a subject that I find, actually, I like all the textures and the tones in the fungi. I'm not sure why you didn't go tighter, because you have at the bottom left, you have a very bright log or part of a piece of wood that I find kind of distracting, with the green, also bright leaves taking you out of the frame. So these are little things that, again, depending on your capabilities with post-processing, stuff that I would normally do. Same thing, top right, you have the little yellow stuff, more fungi, that is not helping. If you make it a nature photo, usually you do have to leave things the way they are, but we're not doing a nature competition now. This is the beginner group, right?
Right, this is the beginner group and it's the open contest. Yes.
Yes. So I'll keep it in because I think it's done pretty well.
Okay. I'll dye it tomorrow.
Okay. So when you do still life like here, you have control. You have control of the light. You have control of the subject. You have control of the background. And, you know, if you took it in a restaurant, I know I never make something like that at home, but you have a couple of problems here. I mean, I like that you went pretty tight, because I see even the background doesn't cover the full frame. And that's kind of a miss, that the top corner, right corner, is empty. But I think the bigger issue, and the light, and I don't know if this was taken with a phone, because you do have phones, today's phones, they do amazing work with tough lighting conditions. I sometimes shoot with the phone just so I don't have to worry about lighting when I have a pretty wide range of brightness. But here I think the main problem that I find is really sharpness, because nothing is really sharp. Everything is a little soft. And for still life, unless you really play with very shallow depths of field, I think sharpness is important, especially when there is no specific area here that you really wanted to emphasize, but by having it sharp. So this will be out.
Okay, this goes out. Spring Lake Park.
Okay, it's a pretty scene. You took it on a bright day, which is often tough for scenes like that. You managed to get and also midday light. So what happens? Let me see if this would work today. Do you see my marking?
No, I don't. Now I see it. Now
Okay. So so that area is completely almost black, and that's the main problem with midday light, that it comes from the above, straight above, and everything that faces us, the camera is, or not everything, but a lot of it would be dark. So timing is kind of a little bit of a problem. And then the fountain is completely washed out. With that said, I think you have a pleasant scene. I think your composition here is pretty nice. It feels like the picture is a little bit tilted to the right, but it's hard to tell because there's no straight edge across the frame. I'll keep it in and I'll look at it again.
Fungus Among Us #1.
Okay, so here's another nature picture with a little tricky lighting conditions, and you've done a nice job capturing it. I like that the main subject is lit a little bit more than the surroundings, so we don't have any distraction by having bright objects that pull away from the main subject. For most flowers, animals, it's a little nicer to be at a lower level, so you get not straight from above, but I think here it seems to work reasonably well. So I'll keep it in.
Sunrise at 35,000 feet.
Okay, I don't think that you use a tripod here. I'm just kidding. That's nice, and these are not always possible to take, not always they don't always come out nice, but this one did. Yes, it's a little bit pushed too far with the saturation, so if you look at around the horizon, it's a little bit saturated, and also the left kind of in the middle of the sky between the clouds and the top. Some of the oranges are a little strong, but I think that's what makes the picture attractive. There's no real subject. It's really about almost an abstract, and I think you've done a nice job in.
Excretion.
Okay, so you're trying to tell us, so it's a storytelling picture. So you have an interesting subject with some colors around it, and that's what you concentrated on. Looking at the composition or where you chose to put the edges, it's a little bit questionable. So we have two flags that are cut off, and I think you either put them in, and I know it would have been a challenge with the flowers, because if you cropped from the right, it would cut off the white flowers. I don't know if you had the option of turning a little bit, moving a step to the right without stepping on any vegetation, but I think we just have, we don't have one clear subject here. The other issue here is exposure. So the flowers are just overexposed. There is no detail, no texture in the flowers, and even the red ones are pushed a little far. And again, it's very possible with some of the cameras, phone cameras, to have that outcome. This one will be out.
Nighttime on the Salz River.
Okay, another challenging scene, and this is one example where cell phones do an amazing job, especially the more recent, the last 5 years of cell phones, either Apple or Android units. I like the composition with the river leading you in, the boat in the foreground that is nicely lit but not overexposed. Of course, the light source there is all white, but that's not a problem. And then it leads you into some beautiful sky. So I think you've done a nice job here. Probably on the left-hand side, could have cropped. Again, look at the borders. You have whatever is here, that white thing, probably could have taken out, but really not bad for this group at all. In.
Lioness.
Okay, nicely done. You were lucky with very soft light, so everything is exposed properly and no harsh shadows anywhere. So we see details even in the eye on the darker side. We still see nice details. You left enough of the environment. Obviously, this is not a nature picture. It's not in the wild. So we do have clearly man-made objects, but you've done a nice job here. In.
She works hard for the money.
Nice storytelling picture. Myself, I do a lot of street photography, and most of my portraits, street portraits, are with permission after I engage with the person, and you can see their characters. It's not that they're playing for the camera, and I think you've done a nice job. Minor things, again, maybe not in this group. The pole that comes right here. And I don't know if you use Photoshop. If you do, it should be very easy to remove because bright, or at least darken it, but still very nicely done. In.
First of milkweed.
Okay, this is a tough one because this type of first exposure is a challenge. So as you can see, some of the areas in the center are overexposed. For the most part, the flower, the ball is sharp, the seeds are sharp. I don't think that the overall color is appropriate. So we see that brown warm tone even on what's supposed to be white. So I think you had a little bit challenged with the lighting and exposure here. The subject is interesting. It's nice that you got tied to it. It's nice that the stem goes kind of in a diagonal, but I think overall the color cast is, to my taste, it's too strong out.
The DNA of a hotel.
Interesting title, and I don't score pictures based on the title, but I like it. I really like the composition. I like the way you handle everything is sharp, very good exposure, very good colors, and very interesting architecture. And again, I'm not rating the architecture. That's not what you made here, but the way you composed it and the way you focused on the, not talking focus, but concentrated on the shapes and the way you framed it, I think you've done a nice job in.
Okay, now we have 8 for round 2.
Okay.
Fungus Among Us, numbers 2.
7.
Spring Lake Park.
7.
Fungus Among Us 1.
8.
Sunrise at 35,000 feet.
8.
Nighttime on the Salz River.
9.
Lioness.
9,
She works hard for the money.
9,
The DNA of a hotel.
another 9.
Okay.
This is
Now what
really
we're gonna
nice.
do is, let me put this here. We're gonna do the first, second, and third, and the other one will be an honorable mention.
Okay, so I can tell you right now.
Okay,
So number 1 is the DNA, the one on the right hand. Yeah.
okay,
Number 2 is the one next to it. Number 3 is the canal on the left.
okay. Open group 1, honorable mention, Lioness Ed Edelson. Very nice, Ed. Third place, Nighttime on the Souls River. Ed again, beautiful. Second place, She Works Hard for the Money. Diane, very, very nice. And first place, Ed again, DNA of a Hotel. All right. So now we're going to do with open group 2. And again, there are 33 in here.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Denali Mountain Cloud, Mountain Below the Cloud.
Okay, so I'm looking at the landscape, and you do have a nice landscape. Lighting is good. The light is good, so it's a good time of day. You have good clouds to not make the sky just bland. I'm not sure why. So the problem you have here is really, and you already made it a panel shot, like a panorama. But if we look at what's in the frame, the top half is pretty much sky. And yes, there are clouds, so it's not just blue sky, but there's not a whole lot. It's not like storm or something that will really pull our attention. And then the bottom third is the road with some, some shrubs and trees along the road. So what really we are looking at, what we want to look at is really what happens probably in a narrow band in the center. And I don't know if the solution would be to be clear of the trees here, if it was even possible, and really focus more on the mountain range and have less foreground and less sky out.
An iconic building.
Yeah, I like what you've done here. I just wish you didn't cut the W. And again, in this group, I don't know if Photoshop is an option.
It is.
But it is, could have been corrected in post-processing, just not the simplest thing, but possible. I do like the light. I do like the fact that you did go tight on it to make it your own, not just here's an interesting building. By having the dark building on the left-hand side, creating one diagonal, even the tilt of the hotel is not, it does work here. It's not a problem. So it's a minor thing about having the top cut off. I'll give it a 7. We'll look at it again.
Venice, Another View.
I really like the way you concentrated on the laundry and the 2 green windows. The building is interesting. The background, what color? It's not beige, but yellow. It's sort of yellow. also is interesting with all the stains. I think all the stains on it are actually show the age and make it more interesting. 7.
Paper kite butterfly feeding.
The butterfly is very sharp, and so it was good that you were parallel to the butterfly and you got the wings sharp, you got the antenna sharp, and everything important. The challenge here is really lighting. You had some very tough lighting, harsh light that really made the leaves around the butterfly very bright. It's not terrible, but it's definitely something. Again, if it was my picture, I would have spent some time and to darken some of the bright leaves behind it. Because right now, what appears is the butterfly is kind of too much blended into. It's so busy that the butterfly is not standing out. Still, you've done a nice job with sharp, properly exposed, nicely composed picture with really nice concentration on the butterfly and the red flowers. So I'll put it in for now.
Bouquet of color.
Nice abstract. And I know sometimes when we see work done with filters and is it really a lot of creativity by the photographer, or is it just trying different filters? And this one appears to be nice, but you did create an interesting abstract. There is no clear center of interest or anchor point, but I don't think it's important. Actually, the eye does go to the center, and I find it actually pleasing. 7.
Snowboarder.
Nicely done. Nice composition. I wish we didn't have a half a person at the top, but these things are happening fast. Yes, these people can be removed in post-processing, but that's a little bit more work. I like that the main character, the main actor here is very sharp, perfect timing. 7.
Bus stop.
I don't know if you intended to include the feet in the top of the frame, but I think it really makes the picture more interesting and kind of it completes the story. Those are the type of things that, in my opinion, help tell the story and sort of anchor us in or orient us to what's happening here. From a technical point of view, you handled it well. The composition is nice. 7. We'll have a lot more to go in the next round, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Bruges Canal.
Bruges. Yeah, I was there many times. I worked for one of my clients was in outside of Antwerp, so on the weekends I would go to Bruges and Ghent. It's a nice classic view of Bruges. I know exactly where you stood to take that. I'm looking at the saturation, and that's a little bit over the top, especially the greens. And I know some cameras, especially some phone cameras, that's the way things come out of the camera. But I think what's nice here is the way you composed it and not putting the reflection and the real thing half and half. 7.
Okay. Sunflower raindrops.
Okay, interesting post-processing, a very sharp picture of the sunflower. Um, I'm not crazy about what happens to the edges of the petals here. They kind of, it looks like by softening the background, it kind of covered a little bit of the flower. Also, I wish there was an anchor point. The flower was not just floating. It's almost like floating in a pool of green water. And this one will be out.
The Maui I remember.
Okay. Well, you had, it looked as there was cloud coverage that made the scene a little bit flat, which sometimes can be a benefit, not having harsh shadows, especially if you take it in the middle of the day. I find the clouds actually more interesting than the foreground simply because, and again, if it was something that you had some attachment to and you remembered it and you got back to a place that you remembered, I can see the value to you, but that illusion of reality, I don't see. To me, it doesn't bring back memories, or to the audience, it's for you. And I find that the scene doesn't have a real strong message or story or visual impact to the viewer. Out.
Pasqua flower.
Okay, so here you had a little bit challenge with depth of field, which when we do flowers is not necessarily a bad thing. You do have the flower here, very sharp, the two at the bottom. I don't know if you had the option of putting this flower facing a little bit closer to the center, not taking us out, because our eyes, of course, go straight to the one that has the yellow in it, that is sharp. This one is interesting, but it's not, it doesn't stand out as much as the one on the left. And this one takes us out of the frame. And then things to clean up, that really dark branch here is kind of distracting. So I don't know, maybe you could have had a stronger picture framing it, and I'm not going straight lines, but a vertical, just what we see here, and look how much cleaner that composition would be. Of course, then it would be my picture, not yours, but an example where we have so much stuff in the frame that I find taking away from the main subject, that is the flower where we see the yellow center out.
Cruising the NYC subway.
Okay, it's I mentioned I like street photography. It usually doesn't do so well in competitions because streets are not perfect. You don't set it up, and you have a lot of challenging conditions, lighting and people and other distracting objects. Here you do tell a story. You have the one person that is clearly in the picture, is all the way to the side, but that's okay. The sign tells us where we are. Having obviously we're not seeing a train here, which is kind of, I wish we did, although maybe you wanted to go for showing what's happening on the other side. 7, we'll look at it again.
Beaming.
Okay, it's an interesting idea, and again, with still life, you want everything to be perfect. I like the black and white tones. I like the composition. I think centered here works well. I do find that I'm losing a little bit of details, but also the stand kind of, you cut it off and you do have a little bit more room. You did have some room to include it, or you couldn't take it out completely because then you cut off the plate. I'm trying to see if it's completely sharp, and it might be, maybe not crisp, maybe the focus was on, yeah, the plate is definitely sharp. Let's give it a 7. Look at it again later.
Yellow swallowtail.
Okay, it's an interesting processing to give it that tones, and the tones I actually find creative. It's not a nature picture. I think the big so you've done something here in post-process. Obviously, you've done in post-processing, and I find that what's missing is sharpness or the butterfly, or making it all painterly look. Looking at the background, it looks like there was some processing to make it look more painterly, but also it looks to me, especially around the butterfly, that there was some motion blur, and I find that distracting. 6.
Still together.
Okay, so here we're looking at something very subjective. You have an interesting storytelling picture, you have a beautiful location, you have an interesting subject and really nice foreground background. There is some keystoning, so everything is a little bit tilted. I'm not tilted because of keystoning, because the steeple in the background looks pretty straight. So it's really the walls on the sides that are bending in. I find the sky to be distracting. There is also coloring in the foreground. I don't find it as distracting, but the top I find really distracting, and not it looks very dramatic, which doesn't really add to the story with the older couple walking nicely on the street. So I find that the post-processing, while done in a creative way, I think it's kind of taking away from your story here. 6.
Essence of eyeglasses.
Okay, this is simple. It's interesting, kind of an interesting idea. 7.
Wood.
Okay. Again, this is another example where it's the subject is not important. It's what you made out of texture, shapes, and light, shadows, and all that. With that said, I don't know if I'm looking at the composition, and I do like the composition. I don't like that about a third of the frame is just empty space. And I do like to work with negative space, but here there is so much weight right here. And then you have you had high contrast, which you handled it well, but I just find that the picture doesn't hold me much, because I'm trying to see if maybe a small, something smaller or maybe even tighter here would probably have worked better, because then we'll see more of the texture and not have so much empty space. 6.
Gladiolus sunset number 2.
Okay, so here there's some, it looks like similar processing to something that we've seen before, or some idea. You have the painterly look, you have the flower that is more realistic. I think this one seems to be, still we don't have a stem, but I think here you almost made an abstract out of it. 7, we'll look at it again.
The beauty of the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, the composition is nice here. The scene is beautiful. I've been there, so yes, you do have that green water. I think the light worked against you. So again, it looks like a midday or close to midday light. So everything, a large part of the picture is in the shade, and what we have is really, it's a little bit hazy, the whole scene, which I think distract from the beauty of that place. And when we see the sky, it does look like it was a bright day, but I'm trying to figure out why it's hazy. I don't know what direction the sun was from. If not, it's not straight from above, because then we would see some details here. Maybe there are some clouds. 6.
Ophrah portrait.
Okay, so here you have some technical challenges that I think may be part of your story, part of your what you're trying to do with the tones, with overall, it's almost high key. So we see, if you see, we're losing some texture in the hand. That's actually the only area where we really lose texture. There is, to me, some toning here that I'm not crazy about, but I like the expression. I like the pose. What I don't think is working out, and I don't know what's happening between her hair and the background. So there was something here. If you see, there is kind of, if we look just, suddenly it becomes very blurry and with hard edges. So I don't know what post-processing you've done here that makes it a little bit unnatural. 6.
Watch your step.
Okay. This is kind of an interesting, really almost an abstract that you handled with interesting tones, interesting textures, and we can each interpret it differently, and it doesn't matter. Now, yeah, it could be a little bit more details, more texture. Here, it's kind of a white thing, but I think you've done, this is where you created something out of nothing, and I think you've done an interesting job here. 7.
Infinite sky, infinite sea, infinite man.
I like the idea. I like the composition. I think that the main problem I have here, it's not really sharp. And I don't know if you zoomed in a lot or in post-processing, you blow it up a lot, but I think if you blow it up anymore, you'll see that halo around the person, and even the waves, you can't even see any, whatever is happening here, it's all kind of a mess. And to me, it just, usually when you shoot wide with a phone or a camera and you really blow it up a lot, that's what happens. 6.
The lady from Da Nang.
Nicely done, beautifully done, nice lighting on the person. I don't know if you did it in post-processing. Today is actually, with the new tools in Lightroom and Camera Raw, it's so easy to do, and I don't care how you did it, it's done well. 7.
Fan dancer.
Nicely done. Another storytelling picture. The lighting is really interesting on her, and I like seeing the fans in the picture. I like the motion blur. We see enough of the expression to understand, to see the story, and you can tell it's a motion blur of her, not the camera, because the tiles, the fan are very sharp. 7.
Study in white.
Okay, I like the creative approach. Is it as strong as could be? And again, when you do an abstract like that, it's so personal and subjective. I think the hazy look, I think it hurts it a little bit, and I'm sure it was intentional. I don't think it was an accident. I just don't know that my eye can really rest on any specific area here. In fact, the only thing that appears very sharp is the railing right here. But again, it doesn't look to me like it's depth of field. I think it was done in post-processing. I don't know. I'll give it a 6.
Garden of life.
Nice details on the center of the flower, and it's okay that it fades out a little bit towards the edges. I just wish it was not so low contrast overall. And you probably intended to make it more pastel, more softer and all that, but I think it went a little bit too far. And the background, while soft, kind of blends too much. And I understand I'm sure there was intentional play with color harmony here. I just think it blends a little bit too much, and I wish there was a little bit more contrast, at least where some of the details are. 6.
Seattle skyline from the sound.
Okay, so skylines usually make interesting subjects. I think here you have two problems. The main one is nothing is sharp, and for something like that, it has to be crisp, and it's all a bit blurry. But the other one is you do it midday, you don't have the drama, you don't have the interesting lighting. 6.
Window shades.
If you didn't give it a title, I would have had no idea of what it is, and it absolutely doesn't matter, because you created a very interesting pattern shot with beautiful black and white tones. You created a nice abstract. 7.
Remembering 1941.
Okay, so you have a storytelling picture here, and I like that. Also, the main where you have writing, it's important that it's in focus, and I think for the most part it is. What I find distracting is first the overall tone, and sometimes I don't know the conditions in the lighting in this room. Everything looks a little bit magenta, a little bit almost purple. And this can be corrected in post-processing. And if it doesn't work nicely, make it black and white, and then the color cast disappears. I think the other two things that kind of I find distracting is one is you're at an angle that makes all the horizontal lines kind of tilted. Even the vertical lines don't seem to be all straight. So some of it could be keystoning because, yeah, it's even the center. Keystoning, the center should be straight, and it's not. The other problem is, again, why cut off the bottom of the, you're already showing where she's sitting. Why cut it off like that? I find that difficult. 8. I mean, not 6. Sorry.
It's okay. Old soldier.
So here the main question, how distracting is that whatever metal beam, and I think it actually works here. It's not, I find it kind of helping us with the story. I mean, the portrait is sharp for the most part. Some, some areas are not perfect, but where it's important, it's so strong. We see just enough of the eyes. Nicely done. 7.
Lily of the night.
Okay, so here again, there's some post-processing with some plugins, some filter to give it a painterly look. I think by turning it to black and white, I think it was a good decision to make it black and white. Of course, I didn't see the original, but I find it to be actually pleasing. I found the whole thing to look like a nice painting. The composition is nice. All the petals are cut off, which is okay here. So it doesn't look like you just missed a corner. 7.
Lahaina a year ago.
Okay. Your timing here was reasonable with only one vehicle here, some in the back, but they're not distracting, and then some people. In terms of, is it a competition level picture? I'm not sure. I like the tree, but we're back into midday lighting. You see the shadow is right below, and we see the top of the tree is lit, but everything here is kind of dark. And the people are not really interacting or even drawing attention or telling a story. So I find it more like a tourist type capture of a place. The composition is nice, but I don't find it to be a strong form of expression. 6.
Pacific Rainbow.
This is, I'm sure it was very interesting to see, probably quite amazing. I think that the processing, and I don't know if it's the camera or post-processing, just took it a little bit too far with the brightness. And the post-processing, actually, if you look at the line, the horizon line, there is kind of some white halo around it. So I think it was taken too far to make it bright and colorful, but it doesn't look natural. And I'm not sure that even as an abstract, it's that's wrong. 6.
Okay, we have 17 for round 2.
Okay.
An iconic building.
7,
Venice, another view.
9,
Paper kite, butterfly feeding.
7,
Bouquet of color.
8,
Snowboarder.
8,
Bus stop.
9,
Bruges Canal.
8,
Cruising the NYC subway.
7,
Beaming.
7,
Essence of eyeglasses.
8,
Gladiolus sunset number 2.
8,
Watch your step.
8,
Lady from Da Nang.
9,
Band dancer.
9,
Window
9,
shades. Old soldier.
another 9,
Lily of the night.
8.
Okay, so we have 6.
That's
What's that?
that's a tough one. I just judged a club. I don't remember where they were. They were somewhere in the country, not in New Jersey. And they allowed multiple number 1, multiple first, multiple second.
I'm sorry, we don't.
I know. Okay, so okay, I think I'll come up with something. So my number 1 is going to be the second picture at the bottom strip. This one, yeah,
This one.
yes.
Okay.
Then it would be the laundry.
Okay.
Then it would be the old veteran on the right.
Okay.
Or
And the other,
soldier,
and the others will be
HMs.
HR. Open group 2, honorable mention. Lady from Da Nang, Harvey. Beautiful shot, Harvey. Band dancer, Mario. Terrific. Window shades, Dan. That is a Dan, definitely a Dan picture. Third place, Bobby. Beautiful. That sharpness. Second place, Dan again. Great guy. And first place, Bobby. Wow. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do open group 1.
Wait a second.
Oh, what happened here? Hold on. I don't
Mark,
know.
we did open already, don't you?
Yeah, we did open, so.
We
You
I
have
did?
to do the theme, yes, the theme, group one. The theme, fences and gates.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. My apologies.
Okay,
Thanks a lot. Score. Okay, group one. Sorry about that.
No
Double
problem.
fences.
How are we doing with time?
Uh, well, I'd say we got about an hour left.
Okay, are we okay with time, or should I accelerate, or?
A little bit.
Okay. Um, okay, you found a, I guess, unique type of gate or fence. You have leading lines. One of those things that you have you have control over the subject, over your position, and there's a little bit I don't know if it's tilting, keystoning, definitely keystoning. I know you kept the horizontal lines relatively straight, but anyway, I'm trying to see why. Okay, it is sharp. I guess it's the texture on the wood, because some of your depth of field is good, and I think that was a challenge that you handled well. I'll give it a 7. I'll look at it again.
Front gate, stone bridge.
Okay, one of those midday shots that really look at the gate, the area that it takes out of the whole frame, and what we have, midday light on the trees and stuff, a lot of dark areas. So, and then you have the tower here that makes it distracting right by the corner. I think maybe getting a lot closer to the gate, maybe even making it your own picture by standing right next to the stop sign and taking it not straight ahead, but in a diagonal, could have made it more of your interpretation of the scene. 6.
Gateway to purple globe.
You found an interesting gate with interesting light on it. Obviously, not natural light, but that's okay. I would look for something like that. I would look again. Why so much of the bottom? Then we have whatever is happening here that is not helping. We don't need so much on top, and the purple thing is out of focus. It can't be out of focus because the trees are in focus. So you had depth of field, but it's kind of unclear what it is. Glowing at 6.
Fearless fence sitters.
I'll DQ it. I like the picture. It's not about the fence. I mean, when I look at that, the last thing I'm thinking about is a fence. So let's DQ it.
Santa Fe security.
Okay, you created an interesting picture, and the fence is important. Without the fence, it wouldn't be anything. Not crazy about the branches here. Of course, you couldn't do anything about it. 7. I'll look at it again.
Gateway to Old Town.
Yeah, this is very nice, and I think here the gate is really important part of the story. 7.
Keep out.
Yes, the gate, I mean, the fence takes a good portion of the frame, but it seems to be almost incidental in the picture because where you have most of the textures and although is really behind it, and again, the light is not doing a whole lot. It's everything is lit okay, so that's not a big problem. But the fence, where is the main subject, is a little bit overexposed. We don't see much texture on the pieces of wood here. The exposure is more controlled over the background. 6.
Fence on Manila Bay.
Again, this is and focus is one problem, and I don't really understand what happened with the focus, why this area is so out of focus. Again, looking at this picture, I don't think that the fence is an important part of it. We have so much in the frame, and the fence is such a small component, so it is part of the picture. It does qualify it, but I just think you have a line that leads you to black and some major issues with focus. 6.
Flower fence.
Okay, it's an interesting composition and good handling. You said earlier that you're a little liberal about the interpretation, whether it's a fence or railing or a wall. I'll accept it. I do like the picture. I'll give it a 7.
Fence off famous rock.
There's an overall interesting composition here. I think the fence, when I look at that, that's to me the subject. The fence, I don't care what's behind it. When I look at your definition or instructions, the fence is, again, incidental here. Yes, it's keeping people from maybe getting into it, but really this is where the subject. The other thing is there's very strong yellow cast. 6.
Okay. We have 4.
Okay. Okay. You first want me to score them, right?
Didn't you score them already? Yeah, you scored them. There were 4 left.
Right, but I only scored 7 or 6. I didn't score 8, 9, things
No,
like
I'm
that.
sorry. You're right. My apologies because there were only 4. I thought we were just, okay, go ahead.
I mean, I can.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and score.
Okay.
Double fences.
Yeah. 7,
Santa Fe security.
8,
Gateway to Old Town.
9,
Flower fence.
8.
First is easy.
First is easy. Yeah. This one is.
Which one?
You don't see this one is number 2.
Okay.
You gave it a 7.
Hold on. Let's just. This is second place, right?
Yes, but I thought I saw the score appearing as 7. You didn't make it an 8, but okay.
That's why I showed it again. You know what I mean? Just to double check. I'm sorry, review contest. Gates, Group 1, third place, Santa Fe Security, Ed, really nice. Second place, Jerry. Once again, Jerry did a great job. And first place, Jerry again. Okay, now we're going to wrap it up with Gates and Fences group. Gates and Fences
Group 2.
Group 2.
Yeah, 25. Okay.
Okay. Gates to Tokyo's Central Park.
It does fit the category. I'm not sure that, again, when I look at this picture, the gate is what it seems to be incidental to me, where more the people appear to be more of the subject here. And yes, the gate is pretty large in the frame, but I find everything around it to be distracting from what the gate is about, because they're not even walking through it. They're standing there looking at it. 6.
Teton's Panel.
It's a very nice view, and technical handling is good. If the gate or the fence is our main subject here, it's cut off. So I don't know if when you took the picture, you probably didn't think about fences, but I find it to be, again, taking away the mountains. Of course, the Great Tetons are beautiful, but for this assigned topic, I don't know that the fence is really an important part of it. 6.
Abandoned Ranch.
Yeah, here we see that the fences are really a strong element in the frame part of the story, and the post-processing is interesting to give it kind of age. 7.
Rotting.
So this is about the fence. So it does fit the category. I find the background to be really distracting. So I don't know, maybe an option would have been to get closer, because if you look at the area in the frame, the bright green in the background takes just as much as the fence itself, and we're not really focusing on the textures and peeling paint. 6.
White Picket Fence.
Very nicely done. I think here the fence is the main subject. It tells us where it is. The processing is nice. Even looks like there was a little breeze that the flags are moving. 7.
Fence shadows in black and white.
Nice. Again, stuff that you're working with the fence's shadow. Nice handling in black and white. 7.
Terrace Fence.
I like the picture, but do you consider it a fence? Because if not, I'll disqualify it so it can be entered again. I don't want to give this one a low score. But if this to you is considered a fence, I'll score it.
Why don't we ask Sandy and Mario?
Well, it is fence. It's around keeping people from falling off the terrace. I don't know. Mario?
I have to disqualify myself.
Uh-oh, okay.
I love the picture. I don't want to give it a low score, but
You know, Eric, you keep telling me you love the picture. If you give it a low score, I'm going to come over through the screen and smack you in the head. So DQ it if it really bothers you. Just DQ
no,
it.
it's your, if you guys think that this is
I don't know,
considered,
it's,
I don't know.
I mean, if you
Why
guys
don't-
consider it a
Why don't you
fan,
just
why
why
I
don't you just
popped out,
DQ
'cause
it?
I don't know.
Just DQ it.
let's DQ it because I love the picture and I don't want to.
Can you let me know when you're judging again so I can put this up there?
Yeah, I can't, but they can.
All right, just DQ it. That's fine.
Okay.
America the Beautiful.
Okay, that's an interesting interpretation, and it's clearly from the poll here, and that it is a fence 7.
Block 5.
Yeah, my cell was right in there. Nicely done. Yeah, I know it's the Eastern State Penitentiary 7.
Dirty State of the Garden Gate in the Garden State.
Long title. Yeah, it is about the fence, kind of interesting with the flowers. I don't know if you could probably I would have gotten a little bit closer. No need for all these tops here in the road and everything. Probably just, I mean, could be even cropped. I'm not doing straight lines here, but almost focusing on that, and it would really remove some of the distracting, but put it with the 7.
Walk away over the wetlands.
Nicely done. It's all about the fence here and the path 7.
Night at the beach.
The color cast, so you do have a fence. It does meet the criteria. The color cast, I find it very distracting. And I wish we saw more. Again, it's so busy, the background with all the bright tones in the background and all the vegetation, that it's really distracting from the textures and the interesting parts of the fence. 6.
Taiwan Memorial Gate.
Okay, so this one is more about the tourists here are not as distracting as before. We do have the gate takes a very important part of the frame. 7.
Forbidden City.
It does meet the criteria. The lighting here is pretty good. I don't know that the picture is that strong. Again, yes, we have the topic and we have the technical aspects. I find that there is just too much stuff happening with nothing complete. So there is no full length of any spot. It's not exactly taking maybe detailed shot of this, or maybe even a little bit more like this. So I think we just have a lot of stuff happening in the frame with stronger, brighter colors in the back, and everything is kind of condensed, which I find it less interesting unless you want to show the place. 6.
Welcome.
Okay, it is about the fence, about the gate, but as an image, as a competition picture, I find that it's not as strong as some of the others. The lighting is a bit harsh, and there's just a lot in the frame that take away. And I don't know if the solution would have been to stand along the fence, closer to the fence, and take a diagonal into it. 6.
Camouflaged gate.
Okay, so here, even though it's busy, I think the busy is what makes the picture, because it does have the fence really fills the frame, and you do have it kind of holds back what's behind it, which is consistent with the definition of your topic. 7.
Happy hour.
Okay, you do have the fence and the gate and all that, but the strongest thing here is, as the title says, the happy hour, which again, is this the story that you are telling here, or is it about the fence? And the sky, I usually don't mind white skies, but I think that here it takes away. So maybe if you've gone a lot closer and had a lot more of the interesting fence, because what's happening here is really interesting. 6.
Fancy fence.
Okay, you've done something creative. It's subjective, so not everybody is going to like it, but I'm not going to penalize for that. I think overall you created something that is your creation. It's a bit artistic. 7. Let me just mute my
Within the gate.
Okay, so here the gate is a very important part of the picture. You handled it well. 7.
Gates to the meadow.
Okay, so here again we have a lot of stuff going on and harsh lighting, but the fence here takes a more important part of the frame, and it does bring us into the scene. And the lighting still, while it's midday light, we still have more lit areas, so we are on a good side of the sun. A little bit harsh. The frame is mostly in the shade. These are somewhat negative points, but I think the picture does meet the criteria, and it is inviting, it is engaging. 7.
Docked.
Okay, so I see the picture is very nice. Processing maybe a little bit over the top, so I don't know if it was HDR kind of processing, but it pulled colors a little bit too much. But we have an interesting, engaging picture. The fence is an important part here. Again, is it exactly a fence? I think here it's a little bit more of a fence than some others. 7.
Don't fence us in.
Okay, we do have the fence here, but our focus is really on the flower. The fence is not what makes the picture. 6.
Patriotic fence.
Yeah, here it's really the fence is the main attraction. We have a center of interest with the motorcycle. Maybe you could have done a little bit. No, I guess you wanted to have the roof here, so we do have the whole thing. 7.
Looking out.
Interesting. the focus is on the fence. Everything else is a little bit blurry. Looks like the car was moving, so it's motion blur, which makes it dynamic. The place is interesting. I like the guy standing here. I know some judges don't like people walking out of the frame. I like people walking out of the frame. 7.
View is behind fence.
Okay, there's a lot going on here, and it tells a story. The fence is, it is bright. It does, you know, this is where the picture for the fence subject. I mean, I'm not saying this is not interesting part of the picture and all that, but if, what happened to my, do you guys see my drawings, or you don't even see
No, I
them?
don't see it. I do not.
Oh, so I wonder what happened. Do you see it now?
Nope.
Oh, it disappears. You know, I keep drawing and saying here and there, and you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Because I see it, but then it disappeared. So if you look at the bottom half of, less than half of the frame, and you have the girl kind of going through the fence, I think this is where your fence story is. When we look at the overall thing, we kind of lose sight of it. 6.
Okay.
Oh, now my drawings are back.
Yeah, now they're back.
All my drawings are back.
Okay. Round 2, gates and fences, group 2. Abandoned ranch,
8.
white
9.
picket fence,
Oh, I said 9.
9? Okay, I didn't
Yes.
hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I was talking the same time you did.
Okay, fence shadow in black and white,
7.
America the Beautiful,
7.
block 5,
8.
dirty state of the garden gate in the garden state.
7. I wish it was a lot tighter without the road and all that in the background.
Walkway over the wetlands,
8.
Taiwan Memorial Gate,
8.
camouflage gate,
8.
fancy fence,
8.
within the gate,
9.
gates to the meadow,
8.
docked,
9.
patriotic fence,
9.
looking out,
9.
Okay, we have 5 in here.
Okay. So my number 1 is the picture on the left. It's really
This
all
one.
about the fence, and processing is fantastic.
This one, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Number 2 is the one next to it.
okay.
Number 3 is the one next to it. I'll go for it.
Which one?
The boat.
Let me just see. This was mine. These were mine. Gates and Fences, Group 2. Honorable mention. Patriotic Fence, Mario. Beautiful, well done. Looking Out, Flo. Once again, great job. Third place, Doc, Harvey. You could tell it's a Harvey. Very nice, Harvey. Gates and Fences, second place. Flo. Nice, nice. And first place, Dan, once again. Great job, Dan. Okay. We're done with that part. Thank you very much. Everybody, you can turn on your mic if you want to say something. At this point, I usually draft Sandy.
Well, I have some distraction here that I was going to keep myself muted. But nice job, everybody. Thanks a lot, Eric, because your feedback was very good, as always. It was an interesting array of photographs today.
Yeah, so nice work.
Yeah, and appreciate everybody participating. It was a nice showing. So thank you all for coming. Thanks, Eric. We'll see you again, I hope soon. At another